Wealth is power here in America. Wealth is, it has the say-so. It has the voice. It has the access to everything. The black community owning 2.6 of the wealth has no voice. So when it comes to power and speaking or gaining or obtaining anything, where we don't have wealth, we don't have a voice. When we look at reparations and we talk about why that's the only solution, I mean, it's directly because of the numbers that we see as far as with the wealth gap. There's nothing that can close that. There's no individual efforts, individual initiatives or any amount of charity or anything. There's so much more that we need. Reparations is the only key that we have. So, I mean, even just through history, we've tried to do everything. We've done everything that we've been asked to do, and we're still seeing the same number. We're still seeing this 2.6. That needle does not move. So basically, out of the 26 million, this money is going to basically be spent on housing, build new homes. They have an initiative where they're supposed to have like 100 IT slots, training the people of the community. It's really open for the whole city, but they're saying that they're going to heavily recruit out of Russell. So basically, even all the slots aren't even promised to Russell, but also it's supposed to be going towards new businesses as well. So you have the training, then you have new businesses such as restaurants and different stores, grocery stores, et cetera. Their theory of change is that these jobs is supposed to help invest in the people so that they can make more money. Look at these job trainings. It's only 100 slots. How is it supposed to change actually a community when you actually having 4,000 households? You have 4,000 households that need to be affected. There's been 4,000 households that's been affected by redlining and by the urban renewal. Even when you look on their site, it talks about how it's supposed to be this justice-based initiative. When you think of justice, it's supposed to bring justice to what's been done and the harm that it's talking about, dealing with redlining, dealing with the urban renewal. So then you have these 100 slots that really does not equate to really what's been done as far as through the policies and the laws that have wreaked havoc. So it affects a few people, it changes a few people, but it doesn't change the whole. When I think about the racial wealth gap, I don't even really know why we even use the term gap, because when you're looking at the gap between whites and blacks, we're looking at 2.6% of the wealth that's owned by blacks versus a 90% that's owned by whites. Really, you're looking at all and none. But then even when you look at how all of this was even created, when you look at slavery, all the policies, when you look at Jim Crow, when you look at the redlining and urban renewals and all the things that kind of come up through there just through history, that's what creates that wealth gap. That's really basically what the wealth gap is, the wealth between whites and blacks, the 2.6 versus the 90. Russell neighborhood makes up about 15% of the West End, basically. When you look at the population, as far as people, it's 9,000 plus. It's one of the 9 communities in the West End. It's made up of 3 different zip codes, 40211, 40212, and 4023. A lot of this research basically relied on Sandy Darity. Sandy Darity is a black economist from Duke University. He talks about these 10 myths when it comes to the solutions to upbuild or close the racial wealth gap. And basically what he does in this piece is he breaks down how these things does not work, because there's been all types of solutions this gives nationwide, and really it seems like a bunch of regurgitated solutions. We see the same things happen in all the cities across America. Basically in that piece, he breaks down those 10 myths that people try to throw on the black community, telling them what they need to do, or even ourselves. We have even believed that if we do these things that it's going to bring change, but there's never really been an example of that. What my paper is addressing is the initiatives that Russell Place of Promise offers Russell, and we compare that to Sandy Darity's 10 myths, and we talk about what Darity says versus what Russell Place of Promise puts out. The first myth that I addressed was education attainment. An easy breakdown as far as when you look at education attainment, we're told that if only we get educated, that this will help close the wealth gap. But basically what Darity does, he has broken down actually the data that it shows even when getting the education, the income that we bring in is not enough to close the wealth gap. The second myth I looked at was dealing with the home ownership. Home ownership is not the same for whites and blacks. One of the biggest things, as far as like in our communities, due to the value of our homes. And when we're talking about investment and home ownership being one of America's top investments, in order to close the wealth gap, they're gonna have to outpace white homes, which are worth a whole lot more. But we're not seeing that. When we're looking at owning a home, you're looking at a lot of people in households that makes $10,000 or less, on average, $20,000 for all of Russell, basically, which is not even enough to own a home. They can't, it's not enough to qualify to get the loan. As far as like the solution, you kind of see a mixture in the talk. We talk about Russell Place of Promise. A lot of the things that they're talking about it's on an individual level, but they try to act like that individual level is going to actually help the group. Basically, if you was to look at an analogy, if you can have an equation that's supposed to equal out to 20, 10 plus 10 that's going to equal 20, or 5 times 4 that's going to equal 20. Well, we see Russell Place of Promise offering is basically 1 plus 1 equals 2. We know that that's not going to add up to what's been done to the group. So it's the group that has been harmed. They're just fixing a few versus the whole. And Reparations is a group initiative. What they're offering, these 100 slots or 135 homes, that's only individual intervention. Reparations is basically a debt that is owed to black people because of what's been done. We're not talking about a charity or a handout or anything like that, philanthropic giving and all of that type stuff. These things doesn't work. This is something that's actually owed. This is a debt that is owed to the black community. What we really see is that the Russell Place of Promise has an individual intervention versus a group intervention. Repairing a few individuals has never been a good solution when the whole community has been torn down by violent policies and laws. It's the whole community that needs repair. In conclusion, the only way of closing the racial wealth gap is reparations, and nothing else will do.